Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening if you're in one of our international locations. My name is Nathan Cowan. I am the Chief Revenue Officer here at Rival IQ, and excited to be talking to you a little bit about tips for using Facebook ads. And we're going to spend a bit of time going over a lot of the sort of tips and tricks that I've learned from experts in Facebook advertising and understanding the magic that exists underneath their algorithms and the way that they work. And we're hoping to share some of those tips with you today. As many of you know, we recently here at Rival IQ launched a real powerful feature to manage Facebook ads. We're really excited about it. We think it's going to help our current customers and future customers really optimize the spend that they have in Facebook and really maximize the results. That said, we're actually not going to talk to you about Rival IQ and our ads feature. If you want to learn more, we'll give you some opportunities for that. We certainly want to make that happen. But we want to use today to be more informative and educational about just maximizing your experience and execution in Facebook. I'm joined off camera by two of my favorite people. Tori Zhang is here from Australia. She's our stray Australian, as she likes to say, and is our internal expert for demand generation. And she does a ton with Facebook and is a closet data analyst. So we'll be adding a lot of value in terms of questions that you can ask. And I'm also here joined by Danica Benson, who is our social media manager. And if you follow us, hopefully you do, you see great content. That's all from Danica. And she's also going to be here to answer questions. Last thing for house cleaning, questions, keep them coming. There is a panel on the right-hand side that you should be able to add questions. We're going to try to answer mostly at the end. Those something comes up, Danica or Tori will surface that to me. We're going to try and get through our content fairly quickly this morning, so we leave the rest of the time for you to have questions, because we're really here for you more than we are for ourselves. All right, preamble set aside, we're going to start digging into some of the content. So our agenda, I'm going to spend 30 seconds, you can all time me, giving you a little bit about Rival IQ, and then we're going to really get into the meat of our presentation, which is broken into really two parts, these sort of expert tips that you can have using Facebook ads, but then more importantly is, where's the data? Where do I find data that helps me make the most out of my efforts on Facebook? So I said 30 seconds, start your watches now. About Rival IQ, right? We consider ourselves the leader in social marketing data, and really it's about insights and action. Our customers are sort of all over the map. We have both literally and figuratively. We have customers in nonprofit, in higher ed, in arts, in health and beauty, in agencies, and CPG. We're really fortunate to have a wide customer range, and that also includes sort of geography, sort of across the globe. We're based in Seattle, Washington, and have been here since 2013. That's my full pitch on Rival IQ. I do encourage you to learn more about us and what we can bring to your organization. Okay. So when we talk to customers, prospects, just people in social media, there are a bunch of things that we hear, particularly when we're talking about Facebook ads, right? So it might be that the ad interface isn't easy to use. It's that you need help knowing whether to stop an ad or invest more in it. Like which one's working, which one isn't. It might be the idea that data is, you need is in Ad Manager, but my gosh, you can't find it. Or, by the time you log into Facebook to check on reports, you've already missed the chance to react. And I could just sit here and click away, and you would find all these different things that we hear from social marketers who are putting money and investment in Facebook and not able to really get the results that they desire. All right. So when we hear that, one of the things that we try to think about is, what do we know that most marketers that are active on Facebook are doing already, right? The first is, right, any good marketer, all of you out there are already testing. You know the concept of testing is crucial to really being able to pinpoint what is going to work and what may cause an adverse reaction than you were hoping for, right? Most of you are likely not boosting posts. Now, I think it's a really fine point to make, right? A lot of studies will show that boosting posts are ways to drive engagement to your current audience, But if you want to expand and grow that audience, that you have to use advertising to do it. And most people are not investing in the boosting side of it as much as they are in actually doing advertisements to reach a new audience, right? The third thing you're probably doing is that you're targeting your ads, right? You know who your audience is, you know the demographics, you know the location, the things and attributes about them that are really crucial, I think are really important. And more than anything, and this one I can feel really confident saying, you care about results, and that's why you're doing the job, right? You care about results. Hopefully others in your company care about the results, and you want to be able to achieve those so that you can be really successful. Right? So if we know that, right, what are some of the things that you can do to be more successful with advertising on Facebook? Right? First thing, be organized and local. I cannot stress enough how important it is to have structure to your advertising process, right? That logic is really important. So making sure that you have a campaign, that you have an ad set, and then you have an ad, and each of those definitions is something different. We think it's really crucial that you have multiple ad sets, and you have to kind of think of an ad set as an audience or segment within that group, and I think that part is really crucial for us. Right. The other is make for adverts, right? This is an opportunity for you to test, right? So what are the images, right? Test 2 images that you want to try, and then test 2 other things in each ad set. Those kinds of things might be like a CTA that you're trying to accomplish. This testing and creating those 4 adverts helps you find the mix of media and an action that you might be looking for to really make a successful advertisement on Facebook. Okay? When you think about it in real practice, one of the things that you can see is an example of a paid ad that actually Tori ran, and it gets really interesting when you look at it. So the first thing that we look at is having 2 different images, right? What really resonates? What do people click on? What does that drive in terms of reach? What might people share with different types of images? And then the second thing that we tested was 2 different calls to action, right? So one would be no CTA versus having a CTA, and starting to understand those is really important. And as you can see in the results, I think it gets really interesting to understand, well, what was the cost per click? What was the amount spent, right? When we look at that, you can see that the advertisement 2 with the CTA had a $5.38 cost per click, right? So that's different than the first one. And so we start to understand which ad is going to best work with the audience that we're targeting by having these different logical organized sets of advertisements. I think that part is really crucial. Let's talk about tip number 2, right? Only test what you can change, right? It's really important, right? The concept of being an effective marketer is all about, right, being able to test and then accelerate that. You want to make sure that you focus on the things that are really that you can apply later. So this might be images that you can reuse. It might be templates or formats. This might be call to action placements. Those are all good things that you can test. One of the things that we see in people that struggle is when they try to test something like copy. There are so many factors that are measurable. Copy is a really hard one to measure about how successful it is. Most of the time in social, it's the visceral reaction that a follower or somebody in the audience that you're trying to attract is really going to have, and I think that part becomes really important. So making sure that as you're doing those tests, you're very clear about things that you can measure and either apply again in future ads, or that you can clearly state this is something that doesn't work for us. That part becomes really important. Okay. The other thing that I think about is optimize for conversion, right? So when we talk about Facebook, one of the powers of the tool is that you can really set your objectives, right? If you think about it, you get the most out of reporting if you're really clear into the objectives that you want to accomplish. Is it that you want more traffic? Is it that you want trial signups? Is it that you want downloads, conversions? If you understand all of those settings, and then you select the ones that are going to be most resonant for you, that part is going to make you successful. And here's why. Knowing the objective is just part of the process, because then tuning that objective will help you measure different results. One of the things that's really both exciting and challenging about Facebook is that they have magic behind the scenes that are based on your stated objectives. So if you look at an example that we had for ourselves, right, we looked at a campaign where we were really starting to focus on driving traffic. So we stated our objective for that particular campaign to be traffic. When we did that, right, we got about 0.5% of a click-through rate, and our cost per click was $3.17, neither of them meeting our expectations. Is that content? Is it images? Is it something out of our control? I think those are all things that we wondered. But one of the first things that we did was really go in and say, well, let's change what our objective is to conversions, right? When we did that, bam, we saw a rocket change in click-through rate, right? From 0.5% to nearly 4.5%. And conversely, we saw our cost per click skyrocket down. Now, I'd love to tell you that I know about the algorithms and all the weird stuff and magic that happens underneath. That is not the expert tip I can give you today. But what I can tell you is watching all of the different inputs to the ad and tuning it constantly helped us be more effective. And a simple change from a objective of traffic to an objective of conversions dramatically shifted the value of the campaign that we were running and really drove up the results. And you think about reporting on this kind of stuff gets really exciting, that if you start to understand, great, it was this piece of content at this time of day using this type of image with this type of call to action with this placement using this objective, I get massive results. You can reuse that and become dramatically more effective by knowing those components that made a successful ad, right? But it is constantly about tuning and evolving and making sure that you understand that objectives is a really big part of that. Okay? Tip number 4. Use your own audience, right? I mean, so much of the power that you have as marketers is that you're constantly bringing people to your assets. That might be downloading content. That might be they're starting trials on your account. That might be that they're reading your blog. Whatever it might be, over the years, you're continually collecting information. Well, one of the things that you can do with Facebook is you can create a custom audience using your own data. A lot of people don't know that you can export your CRM database, I think, into like a flat file format that allows you to then import it into Facebook to create an audience, right? So start thinking about ways in which you could use that. For example, you're going to do a webinar like this, but you only want it to go to new prospects. Well, if you have your own data in Facebook, you can exclude existing customers from viewing that ad, right? Let's say that you want to put a promotion out in front of customers who might be going after a specific segment. If you look at Rival IQ, we have a bunch of different plan types, and one of them are what we would call our plans for individuals. And so we can run a campaign by having our own data and subset an audience that we think is a fit for what we would call our e-commerce individual plans, so that those ads are only showing to those people. Right? So by creating those by creating those audiences using your own data, you absolutely can be much more effective in who you're reaching when, and making sure that you're constantly using Facebook as a way to nurture either potential prospects or existing customers in unique and diverse ways. Right? This is really powerful for extending a digital campaign as well onto Facebook, right? So, I think that idea of you're running a campaign and you're doing banners or you're doing other activities digitally that are driving activity, you can now extend that into Facebook by bringing that audience into it, which I think is important. Right. The other thing is that, and this is a great idea that I get from Tori, is try testing a look-alike audience, right? You know who your customers are. So what tests can you do with the people that you know about, and how does that actually then translate to you going out and getting new audience members? So I think all of that is really important. Okay. Number 5. To me, the easiest one, track the right metrics, right? For us, our strong belief is that you focused on cost per result. I think it matters to everybody in your organization because it's great if you can say, I get this many page likes, or I got this many conversions, because you can grow so much about your business with money. But the problem is money has a limit, and being able to understand what your cost per results is is going to help you be able to advocate for more budget internally. It's going to be able to help you show your effectiveness. I think it's going to help you understand what's working and what's not, because you're always going to be smart enough and good enough at your job to be able to drive a bunch of action from people with your advertising on Facebook, but to do it with a really efficient cost model where you're tracking those results is, I think, the key to being really successful. There are a bunch of other metrics that may matter to you, to your organization, to your partners in the business, but I think making sure that you're always high-centered on the idea of cost per result and you're communicating that effectively internally is going to be really crucial. Okay, so one of the ways that you do that, you guys can see in sort of ads, when you're looking at it, right, you can really start to be able to understand a lot more of cost per click, total cost, and being able to measure that. And so I think being able to report on that effectively is something that's really important. All right, so when we talk a little bit more about insights and where to find it, and I'll take actually a pause here and say we've covered some really good tips. I've tried to get through it really quickly. I'm known for being a tad bit long-winded as I get eye glances from my partners here in the room. And so I want to make sure that you are getting time to submit your questions. If you have questions about those key insights and want to dig into them, please submit them. Danica and Tori are here to help me answer those questions. So one of the things that I'll move into is key insights and where to find it. And one of the things that we believe both as a company and I believe as a passionate marketer and social media marketer is this idea that data is the key, and it's got to be actionable data. And so where do you go to find it, right? So one of the things that's really important is to understand cost per result by age and gender. Now, and I believe this is actually something you can not get in Facebook, but you can get within Rival IQ. So a little sneak peek at our ads platform. But one of the things that age and gender really helps you with is to understand the relative success you're getting by targeting audience, right? So is it working with females? Is it working with males? Is there an age set that it's working better with? And really weeding out the underperformers so that you can double down on the high performers. And a really good example of that would be here. Like, we ran a campaign, and one of the things that it showed us was that males 35 to 44 were highly underperforming. It was costing us $15 per result against an average of about 10.23. If you can actually look, both females 25 to 34 and 35 to 44 were under $10, right? So for us, like, why not weed out that underperforming segment, apply that money to really focusing on the segments that are working will help us be much more effective in our approach. And so as you start to understand that, like, pulling that data out is going to be really crucial so that you can make those really quick decisions. Right? Another is ad placement, right? So is it on their mobile feed? Is it on their desktop feed? Is it on Instagram feed? Like, really understanding where is your ad being placed by Facebook, and is that driving the results that you want? Because guess what? You can change it, right? Like, you have the option to do that. And so understanding, like, wow, our on Instagram, our click-through rate is 1%, but it's costing us $8.13 compared to our click-through rate on the mobile feed, which is higher, but the cost is a lot higher as well. And so you begin to get into a place where you can tune where you want that ad placed, particularly if you think that there's a way for you to get the most effectiveness from one of those segments or not. Okay. One of the things that we talk about with placement is to always remember that Facebook will always default to automatic placements. Okay, so this is where Facebook says we choose where your ad gets placed, and you have to sit there and like it. Okay, now, one of the things that's great is that they also give you the option to edit those placements, right? So this idea of tuning and removing placements is something that's going to be really valuable. All right. The third thing that we talk about is get alerts, right? So one of the comments that we talked about that we hear from people is, yeah, this is great information that I knew, but I knew it 3 days too late, right? Well, it's because they're not getting alerted. And I think that part becomes really important as a core aspect of our Facebook ads platform is this idea of alerting. How do you begin to understand, right, what is underperforming, right? So for example, in the image that we're showing here, it's clear that competitor size plus US has a cost per result 90% higher than the average, right? I'm telling you that is something you want to know immediately, right? Because every day that you let that go is going to be a day that you're spending more money on something that is converting less than you need to, right? Conversely, you also want to get alerts on things that are working well. I have that whole idea of like double down. This notion of if I've got something that's performing better than I thought, I want to know as quickly as possible because I want to juice that, right? I want to continue to grow that effectiveness, and I put a little more money behind it, or I add a little something to it. Is there something that's going to get me even better results? So making sure that you've got a system, I recommend Rival IQ, that interprets data and makes recommendations. I think that part is really important. Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground. I think I covered it in 20 minutes, which was our goal. So I think I'm going to get a bronze star for that. I think the team's really excited. And we want to leave the rest of the time for you to be here for Q&A. And for those of you that maybe don't have questions, I really encourage you to stay and listen to the answers, because I think this is part of the insights is sharing from the community. And so I'll defer to Danica to help me with some of the questions that we have. So the first one, and I'm sorry, I'm looking down, is what constitutes a conversion? If I'm making an ad for a hotel and the URL is their reservations page, would conversions make more sense than traffic as a goal? I think the answer to that is really yes, as long as you have the Facebook pixel on the final page of the reservation process and the Facebook conversion tracking is set up, right? So there's some behind the scenes work to being able to do that. But what Facebook does is once it learns what sort of users will likely convert, it actually is going to begin to show the ad to those users. And I think that's one of the magic that exists behind Facebook is they start to tune and go, boy, this is something that people want. So how do we make that and put it in front of them more often? I think question number 2 is, what is a CTA? That is a call to action. So, for us, oftentimes it might be downloading a piece of content. It might be signing up for a trial. It might be talk to one of our representatives. These things that are an overt action that allows them to raise their hand to express a level of interest. And I think calls to action are really important, and I'm a big believer in having one. Oftentimes a mistake I see is when they have more than one, but you want to give them something that they can do if they want to take a next step based on the content that they're seeing. Okay. So question number 3. When you saw the huge increase in click-through rate from changing your objective, from clicks to conversions, did you change the copy image targeting, or was everything else the same? That's a question from Ryan. Thanks, Ryan, for the question. Tori's actually the one that did this, and she's helped me with an answer that's like, in her mind, no, we changed nothing at all. Her main aim was to test the same audience and the same ads, only changing the objective. She was really curious to see sort of what Facebook would do and learn more about different ways that she could tune it. And ironically, by changing that, she learned very quickly they indeed know how to work that magic once they started to change the objective. And so, one of the things that Tori is a really big believer in and has advocated for is testing those things that you can change. And you don't change everything at once. And so how do I keep the ad set exactly the same and then change just one thing so I can measure the impact of that? And that one thing was really impactful and has now influenced a lot of the other campaigns that she's launched as a thing to test. So. All right, question number 4. And by the way, if I don't answer your question and you've got a second one, please send a follow-up to Danica. Question number 4, what are some reasons to load my customer list into Facebook? Thanks, John, for the question. Really, I think one of the biggest things that we see is that we want to block an ad from existing customers. I'll give you a really good example. So it might be the end of the quarter and you want to promote an incentive. Well, if you're doing a 30% off incentive and that gets placed in front of one of your customers, then all of a sudden you've got a customer experience issue and something that's going to be time consuming that didn't need to happen. Now, we already do this with all of our emails where we suppress address, but extending email into Facebook, which is a really reasonable thing to do with the targeting that you can do, you also have to remember that there's going to be risk if you don't have some of that ability to suppress a customer list from them receiving that, because they may just fall automatically into your demographic. So I think that part can be really important. Another example of why you might do that is you want to suppress your current fans, right, as an example. So I think that kind of stuff is really, really important. So hopefully answered that question. I'm looking to you guys to feel like I answered that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So a question about Rival IQ, does our solution just track Facebook ads or others as well? This is actually a really great question. Remember that when we use the topic of Facebook ads, it encompasses everything owned by Facebook, which includes Instagram. The toolkit is ads, but it absolutely tracks all of the advertisements that you're making on Instagram, and so that you can really be effective in that. And so this is an ads manager for both Facebook and Instagram, if you want to think of it in that context. Okay. So question number 5, I've heard that most of your audience who already likes your page generally does not see your posts. How can you change that without huge money put towards boosting, especially when you're marketing for a shooting range where Facebook won't let you boost many things? And so I think posting post types that Facebook prefers, like native video, live video, and photos, fewer links and status updates, are ways that you can start to to target people that are outside of your audience. I think it's really important to remember, as I said earlier, boosting is usually the best way to increase engagement with your current audience. But if I understand your question, if you're a gun range, you probably have a pretty passionate customer base that's already there, right? One of our customers is actually in that industry, and so I've talked to them before. And one of the things that I would say is that your goal is to extend that reach. And so instead of using boosting, which is always just going to go to your current audience, you want to start to use the targeting that will allow you to go after and find new audience members. And then when you do that, you've got to use the types of posts that are preferred by Facebook. So this is native video, all of that kind of stuff, I think is stuff that's really important. But a really great question, and I think in a niche market you'd find that Facebook advertising would actually help you be a lot more powerful in attracting new members and new people to come to the range. I think is really important. So one of the questions comes from, and I'm going to pronounce it wrong, I'm sure, Arjanel, which was, what time frame do you test an ad? Simple as it's not really about time frame, right? It's really about reach, and you need enough data to know whether it's meaningful. One of the things that we've built our business on is this idea of benchmarking. And so if you're doing this over time, you actually don't need a bunch of days to be able to see compelling data. You can be in a place where if you know your history, if you know the results of your past ads, you can instantly start to see when things aren't performing the way that you want and adjust. Now, the key to that message, though, is making sure that you have enough data. And that's why reach becomes so important. Are you getting in front of enough people for the data to be statistically significant, I think, is the real key. And that could be a day, it could be 10 days. It really depends on the reach of the ad that you have, which I think is really important. Question number 7, how much should I spend per month per ad for a Facebook campaign? And that's from Pierre Francois. Pierre, it really depends. It's an impossible thing to answer. It's really about what works for you. If you go with sort of Tori and Danica's belief in testing, I'd start small. So put $20 a day behind some advertising and see what works before increasing budget. So you can imagine starting to put $20 and going, I'm going to try these different adverts, and then I'm going to start to apply more if I get a thread of success. I think that's the big key, is oftentimes with any advertising campaign, people tend to go all in on it before they have any data. And one of the powers of Facebook advertising is you can test. You can put just a little money behind something and you can get statistically relevant results that then allow you to go, oh, I want to actually now put a lot more money in that. And so, you put that $20 a day, you get started, and then from there you can spend, really increase the budget based on what you have available. So for us, we can spend sometimes between $100 to $500 a day. We have some customers that we know are spending $5,000 a day. It just sort of depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what budget constraints that you have. I think the one truism that exists is start small, right? I think that is unequivocally an answer that I can give you, is always start small, measure, and then take it from there, right? Question number 8. What are some reasons to use ads versus boost a post? Lee, thanks for the question. Thanks for being here as well. I'll state this as a really important one. Boosted posts are for increasing reach among your current followers. So if you care about things like engagement rate, if you care about emotions or interactions with the current audience, boosting posts is one of the most effective ways to be able to drive up the engagement of that, and oftentimes it can be more cost effective, right? But the thing that becomes really important goes back to what your objectives are, right? Because they already know who you are, they're more likely not to click on the call to actions that you have because they're already having taken those actions. And so boosting posts is just about continuing to engage with them. Advertising is all about, how do I attract more? How do I drive people to me, and really invest in doing that, which is crucial. And so for us, when we think about it, we want to get into the Facebook targeting, so that you can get really granular about growing your audience with real data and the people that you think are going to ultimately lead to conversions for the business, which I think is crucial. All right, question number 9. Daily budget versus lifetime budget, auto versus manual bidding. Which do you recommend and why? Austin, that's a great question, so thanks for submitting that. Our consensus is that we always go with daily budget and adjust it every few days based on how things are performing. I think it really depends on how much of a focus this is for you. So if you're Tori, you live in Facebook ads. It's a big way that we're driving leads for our business. And so she is in it every single day looking at ways to get better. And so that daily budget allows her to tune constantly to change things, and we run into things I think are really interesting, and I'm going to be kicked out of the Sales Leaders Club for saying this, but on an occasion we might get too many leads. Sometimes Tori's campaigns are don't remember I said that, please, she's, yeah, exactly, we're not recording this, all right, shoot. But as a sales leader, there are times where you can see a campaign be so effective that then it's too many leads, and having that daily budget allows Tori to throttle it back a bit where it can really make sense, and we can collaborate on what's working and what isn't by having that daily budget. So it's what we really prefer. I think that part is important. She also really recommends, as does Danica, as do I, that bidding, auto bidding, because she really trusts Facebook to do what is best based on the objective. To be honest with you, their algorithm is smarter than we are. That's the thing that you really have to understand. You've got to put a little bit of faith in the algorithm being smarter than you are, and then the key is to continually track it to make sure that the algorithm's working the way that you want. But we trust the algorithm to work, and I think that's really important. So the last part of that, I think, Austin, for us is, just expanding a little bit on the daily versus lifetime. If you're doing a time-based campaign, so for example, if you're promoting this webinar, lifetime makes a ton of sense. But if you have specific goals, right, that you're trying to achieve, then set a specific time frame and keep it very focused on that. And I think that part's really important. Again, great question. Question number 10, what best practices do you have for a first-timer testing remarketing ads on Facebook? And that's a question to Sarah. From Sarah. Sarah, welcome to the First Timers Club. We're excited. You'll love doing Facebook ads. I think a big component, and you'll hear me say this continually, is to start small. Right? I think it's always important as a first timer to really start to get a baseline of the attributes of successful ads and the attributes of unsuccessful ads. And you only do that by starting small and just testing. So, test different objectives like we talked about. Do you want people to come back and purchase right away? Do you want them to come and read a blog? See what objective resonates with them most. Your goal might be, I want people to come and buy. but that might not be your audience's goal. And so you're going to have to tune that a little bit. And so I think starting small and making small investments and just trying what works, put $20 to something and really then get the things that you can measure, because I think that's going to help you be more successful. Once you have that baseline, it's amazing how quickly you'll go from first timer to expert, because you have the data that tells you what works and what doesn't, and it's remarkably consistent. And I think that part is really important. So good luck. Reach out to us if you've got questions. Sarah, I think you're going to be great, and I think you'll see a lot of success with it. Question number 11. This comes from Lee. Also, if an ad performs well, does it cost less to run it? We're starting to get into the algorithm stuff, which I think is really important. So let's be really candid. Facebook is not very transparent about this. Our feeling and our experience, but it is just a feeling, is that it's cheaper to run a successful ad. Essentially, think of it this way. Facebook, to be relevant, wants to ensure that it's putting up content that its audience wants, right? And so if you've got a successful ad, they're more likely to present it, and your cost per click is likely to go down, because they want to surface and elevate content that's high performing, which I think is really important. You know, if your content particularly is engaging, so people are commenting on it, they're sharing, things like that, it's more likely to show it, and they're going to charge you less, right? But Danica brings in a really good point she shared with me just offline, which is it also depends on what your objective is, right? Sometimes a higher quality lead can end up costing you more per click, conversions, etc., but they're more likely to convert into a customer. Again, it's always about testing what your objectives are. Okay. All right, so I think, are those all the questions? We got more? Holy moly, okay. Question number, is this number 13 or number 12? I forget. So we've got somebody who's running a campaign that always set the maximum amount of days that it allows me allows me based on my total budget. Are there any circumstances when it's better to make the duration shorter? Not really. I don't think so. I mean, I think if you've got a set budget, they're going to let it run to a certain point, right? So there isn't any value in making it shorter, because they're not going to apply those resources more expensively. The campaign is just going to run the way the campaign runs. And so I think that piece is really valuable to make sure that you're clear on. Again, I'll go back to, this is an area where you really get focused on testing and testing the amount of budget you apply to it, and that will help with the time frame. So, oh, there's a part 2 to this question, huh, Danica? So, is there a way to mass delete a region from a Facebook page? I'm not sure I know what you mean. If I understand that, maybe you can submit a clarification, but if I understand it, you want to suppress and target an ad to a specific geography. And so I think about it in the positive versus the negative, which is, rather than saying like, can I get rid of a region, it's where can I target, if that makes sense. Am I missing something?
You got the part 2 before the part 1.
Oh, okay, never mind, sorry. Part 1 of that question is, I feel like when I'm targeting specific ads to specific demographics, I'm still receiving likes, comments from accounts in the Philippines. These are people who have not liked my page. I blocked Philippines from the boost. So that's helpful. And then the part 2 to that question, back, is there a way to mass delete a region from a Facebook page?
Okay, I'll jump in. So you're saying basically that you have created an ad and you have excluded everyone from the Philippines, and you're still getting likes from the Philippines. This is something that we've run into as well. Our geographic targeting is very tight, and we still get people outside that. And I think it's just one of those things where sometimes, you know, someone doesn't have an accurate location on their Facebook profile, or Facebook might be targeting them based on their IP address. You know, Facebook is pretty magical with the way its algorithm works. There's a lot of mystery in there, and they don't want you to know how it works. In some ways, that makes me trust it more, and in some ways, that makes me trust it less. You know, seeing the results from that conversion versus traffic experiment makes me really trust the Facebook algorithm. But then things like this kind of sow seeds of doubt in my mind about how it's actually working.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Tori. Let me see. I think, is that everything, Danica?
No, we have one more.
Okay.
Just a second. If you have just one suggestion to improve Facebook ads results, what would it be?
So if I had just one suggestion to boost you, what do you think? What would be yours? You're the expert.
I wouldn't call myself an expert. To be clear, like Nathan keeps referring to me as an expert, but I was quite new to Facebook posts, or to Facebook ads. I only started doing them in October last year, and that's given me, a lot of time to experiment. I would say, yeah, there's so many things that you could do. Facebook gives you so many options, from the way that you set up your ad like sets and ad creatives to the way that you target audiences. I would say probably the most important thing that I found is audience targeting. It makes the biggest difference in terms of cost per result, in click-through rates, and in cost per click. So I would start with audience before I start with anything else.
Yeah. I think mine's consistency. So one of the things that you find is that consistency of posting and the advertisement and where you place it. Those things become really important, and I would follow that up with native video. I'm going to be a big believer in native video as a way to be really successful with advertisement. I think it's the content that most people are looking for, and I think it's the thing to make you most successful. So those would be my 1A and 1B for sure. Great. And another question, Arjanelle, comes from, where can I find which part of the audience placement of an ad is underperforming? I think this is where things get really interesting. If Facebook ads as a user interface doesn't provide you with a number of tools, and one of our big recommendations is that you find a platform that can do a lot of that deep digging. We've launched something for that, and so when we talk about underperforming, we actually provide alerts within our system that will tell you that something is underperforming, and we want to make sure that we're providing that alerting as much in real time as we can, right? That helps you then take an action in our platform. You actually get the alert, and then you can actually click and open up Facebook Ads Manager and immediately make the change, which I think is such a huge, powerful part of it. When we were going through our beta test, one of the most exciting points was we were walking through one of our clients through their ads, and they immediately saw an underperforming post and the alert that came with it. And in real time, while we were waiting, they said, hold on, and clicked on the ads manager. It opened up, they made the change, and then we went back to going through some of the other features. So I think finding a platform that does it, again, I'm really proud of what we have to offer, but whether it's Rival IQ or something else, you've got to have something that goes beyond what Facebook can offer you in its ads manager toolkit. Cool. Well, this has been really successful. I want to thank Danica. I really want to thank Tori for being here. We've had a great time talking about Facebook ads. You could literally really be valuable and important for you to be investing in it. And I know, we've got a wide swath of people who are really experienced in it, who are not experienced. And, if you're not experienced, keep testing, start small, make sure that you're using these tips, because I think that'll help you get really effective and become an expert quickly, which is key. And if you're already an expert, remember that continuing to test, all right, looking at all of the different components of an ad to be successful, and don't get intellectually lazy about the process, right? If you've got a good system, it can always be improved because the algorithm's always changing. The last thing I will say, which I think is really important, is if you want to learn more, join Rival IQ. We give a free 7-day trial. You can see some of the Ads Manager features as well as the host of other tools that we provide. You can also follow our blog. If you follow rivaliq.com, I think it's /blogs. Just slash, or yeah, is it back? Forward, is it forward?
Yeah.
I always forget that. Okay, so /blog, singular. But we have got great content with lots of these tips and tricks that I think is really valuable. And certainly follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Danica's posting all the time. There's both good content and lots of stuff to like. I think there's even a picture of me holding a baby, which was a recent post. So lots of ways for you to engage with Rival IQ. I do want to thank all of our customers who have joined and participated in our beta program, and thank all of you for taking time out of your day to participate and to ask questions. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. Thanks so much. Go place your ads and have a great day.